Hey everybody, Fred Minnick here, and I've got a really good list for you, and that's my list of best low-proof bourbons. Now, what is low-proof? There's some history behind how bourbons got to be low-proof in the first place, but I will say if you live in Australia or New Zealand, you live in the only two areas that you can get bourbon below 80 proof. By law, you cannot bottle bourbon any lower than 80 proof, with the exception of Australia and New Zealand, which negotiated that in their free trade agreement with us. So you all, if you live there and you want some 74 proof bourbon, knock yourself out. So bourbon has traditionally been a product that's bottled at 100 proof, the bottled and bond proof. That's what people have typically wanted. In the 1940s and 50s, that was what was considered the super premium, was bottled and bond. The 1960s rolls around, there's some tax changes, and the distillers start bottling things at a more regular basis at 90 proof and 86 proof. And they develop a following. Like National Distillers became very famous for having really, really great 86 proof bourbon. Now, the current wave of bourbon has completely changed. We actually have not seen the amount of cask strength products like we do today in the past. There is not a precedent for this. Cask strength is what people want. That's what people desire. That's where you can dilute it if you want to, but you're getting the absolute, straight from the barrel experience when it's a cask strength or a barrel proof product. Whereas if you get it something at 90 proof, you can't bring that proof up. And that is the trend of today. And so when I go to looking for low-proof products, there's not a lot of them out there because people are moving toward higher proofs. Now, I went to you all because it's such a subjective thing, and I didn't really have a good feel for what a low-proof product was for the base. I probably would have said 95 proof and below. But I asked the YouTube audience to vote on this, and you all did. 1,600 of you voted, in fact. 2 days ago, I started this poll, and 76% voted that 80 to 89 proof was considered low proof. 90 to 99 proof got 20% of the vote, and, 100 to 172%. Now, I will say that is probably pretty accurate, but if we jump that up to 90 proof, we add a whole lot more product that we can consider here for this list. Now, that being said, I did my very best to go through my past tasting notes, to go through everything that I had done in the past, and to see how things fared, and to see how I like particular products. And I came up with 7. There's a lot of low-proof products out there that I just do not like. Benchmark. Benchmark is one that a lot of people are fans of. I hate Benchmark. I hate the low-proof Benchmark. It tastes like wood to me. I just cannot stand it. And there's a few others, but Old Crow being another example. Old Crow is one that is a low-proofer that, just don't like it. And also, I have this, a really major issue with Old Crow because it used to be the greatest bourbon on the market, and then Jim Beam bought it and turned it to shit. So I have some issues with that one in general. So I have a list of 7 here, and before I cite them to you, I want you to put in the comment section what is your favorite bourbon between 80 and 89 proof. Now remember, Maker's Mark, Woodford, Elijah Craig, a lot of these good everyday bourbons, they're in the 90s, So if we move that proof point just a little bit to the right, we can consider a whole lot more. So I suspect that when you look at your bottles, what you think might be in that 80 to 89 proof point, you're like, oh, wow, it's actually 90 proof, So what is your favorite? Put it in the comments and wait to see if it's on my list. So, number 7, Brothers Bond. Brothers Bond is it's the Ian Somerhalder product with Paul Wesley. It's MGP. I actually think that the cask strength is fantastic. Of course, I'm always going to say, oh, I like cask strength, because I do. I like cask strength. What are you going to do? Sue me? And the 80 proof to me is a really good example of MGP whiskey. It's a good example of MGP whiskey when it's proofed down. You know, it's sure it's grainy, but it's got a little sweetness there to it. It's a very, very good bourbon at 80 proof. But at the same time, you know, it's at number 7 on this list. At number 6, good old-fashioned standard Jim Beam. Jim Beam White Label is basically what I'm drinking at baseball games, football games. It's a thing that you can find. It's a thing that you can find at, you know, most commonplace, right? It's a very available product. It's 80 proof. And it's actually won some blind tastings with me. I was at a distillery once, and they wanted to try to prove that their bourbon was better than the standard stuff on the shelves, and, you know, I picked Jim Beam over their products in a blind tasting. So they were not very happy about that. So Jim Beam in a pinch will do. At number 5, a rather new product on the in this market, and that's Nashville Barrel Company's 86. So it's an 86 proofer. You know, I'm just a big fan of what they do at Nashville Barrel Company. They're hustlers. They're out there sourcing barrels, but I think most importantly, they really are a group that gives back to the community. Just great people. And that being said, if the whiskey wasn't any good, it wouldn't be on this list. So they're very good blenders. They have great palates, and I think this is a really good entry for them into the mainstream world, because let's face it, what we like isn't going to be crossing over into the mainstream world. This is as much as it is a low proof bourbon list, it's also a starter bourbon list. At number 4, and many people's favorite bourbon, but I just am not a fan, but it's still good enough to be here on this list. It's still good enough to be considered a fantastic starter bourbon. It's still good enough to be considered one of the best low-proof bourbons, if not the best by your standards. And at number 4, I have Basil Hayden. Basil Hayden, of course, comes from Jim Beam. It's 80 proof, and it's in a really fancy bottle, fancy-looking package. So if you're trying to get someone into the bourbon game, it is a really good bottle to bring as a present or as a way to get someone to start sipping bourbon, because it's not high octane for people. It's got a pretty standard profile, little sweetness, little cornbread. But it's, at the end of the day, for me, it feels like water on the palate. But still, we're not talking about the best bourbon list ever. You know, we're talking about 80 to 89 proofs here. So we are not looking at a large sample size for me to choose from. So that being said, Basil Hayden is good enough to make this list, and it does so at number 4. At number 3, Old Forester 86. Yep, that's right here. The top 3 for me are really close. Like, and this is, I'm telling you, this could be number 1 for me, and it could also be number 3. Yeah, so, or it could be number 2. Old Forester 86 proof is in the well. By in the well, I mean it's behind the bar, and it's what they make cocktails with. But this thing is really good, especially for cocktails. It's got a really banana-forward flavor profile, and to me, it's great value. So number 3 could be number 1, but right now it's at number 3 on my list, because the other 2 out-tasted it, you know, throughout my career. But Old Forester 86 proof is fantastic, and it's twice as good as Basil Hayden. How do you like that? I just had to get one more dig into Basil Hayden because, well, you know, I have issues. You all know that. At number 2, Four Roses Yellow Label. At 86 proof, at 80 proof, it has one of the most quintessential cinnamon-forward flavor profiles that you will ever get. And it's at 80 proof. It makes for great punches. Like, we use this for punches, especially in the holidays. I'll make a Four Roses punch, and it's so good. But I'm a big fan of everything that Four Roses does. It's a great distillery, a lot of talent over there. But at 80 proof, it is mwah, chef's kiss. Very delicious. And that cinnamon flavor profile is something I crave. And when I'm craving cinnamon, I reach for Four Roses. Usually it's going to be the single barrel, but you know, in a pinch, Four Roses, Yellow Label. It's no longer yellow, but I still call it Yellow Label. And at number 1, you've heard me talk about this product many times over. It made my, its sister brand in the Bottle and Bond, made my best value bourbon many times. It won my best everyday bourbon, but that's Bottle and Bond. This one right here, Evan Williams, regular old black label, 86 proof, in my opinion, and my opinion only, is the best low-proof bourbon. Now, you can find this in stores for $12, $15, depending on where you are. And so there's incredible value there, but its flavor profile is fantastic. Now, you are never going to get me to say that this is the it's not better than, say, George T. Stagg, and it's not better than, like, even something like, Maker's 46. Well, maybe in a blind taste off, Evan Williams could beat Maker's 46. Probably has in some of my tastings, actually. Anyway, so what I'm getting at is, I'm not saying that this is Pappy Van Winkle. What I'm saying is like, of the low proof products that are out there, this is the best for my palate. It is really really balanced. It's got a nice nutmeg note there, and most importantly, you know what? If you don't like it, you only spent $12 on it, $15. So almost this entire list is under $40. Basil Hayden and Brothers Bond are the most expensive on the list. Everything else is pretty darn inexpensive. So check these out. Put in the comment section how you would rank these, or what would be your top 7, or if you have 8. But I would love to know. It is a true art to be able to put together a list of low proof bourbons, because there's not a lot of them out there. They're out there, but a lot of they ain't good. You know what I'm saying? I know what you're saying. Yeah, they ain't good. Anyway, that's going to do it for this list. I look forward to reading your comments. Thank you so much for voting. For those of you who did vote, to help me to declare that 80 to 89 proof point to be the best area for a low proofer. That's going to do it, folks. Make sure you click subscribe, click like, and remember, vodka sucks unless it's being used for hand sanitizer. Cheers, y'all.